All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else? In today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about a roundtable discussion the New World developers had talking about their service improvements. I wanted to cover it. I'll provide a link in the description if you guys want to check it out for yourselves, but I wanted to talk to you guys about what they covered in like a Cliff's Note style format, and then I wanted to dive into more detail about some of the things that they discussed that we could kind of glean into for what's coming to the future of a game that has been making a lot of great improvements. And so that's what this video is. Let's dive into it. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, earlier on this year in the summer, New World introduced cross-server OPRs. Now, this channel has covered it in the past. I covered it in previous New World videos. I think I was like back in January. I was talking about how, I really enjoy the combat. The problem with combat, though, on my server, which is Lilith at the time, was engaging in OPRs becomes a thing where it gets to a point at night to where people just stop hopping on. Open world PvP is engaging to a point to where people just stop hopping on, and then at some point, like, you just don't have enough people. It takes 30 to 45 minutes to queue into an OPR. At that point, you know that you're not going to queue into an OPR, so you hop off and you call it a night and you're no longer playing New World, which is fine. You play something else. But that is a problem that a lot of MMOs can struggle from, is having population. It is an MMO by design is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. If you don't have content for your players to enjoy, they're going to move on to something else. And so introducing cross-server OPRs, allowing different servers to connect and group up in order to queue up for this type of matchmaking, kept more people in the game longer. I found myself playing later because I do enjoy the OPR game mode. And when my server starts to die down from an open world PvP perspective, I know I can hop into OPRs and I can get into a match almost immediately. There's a much, much larger player base. So instead of waiting 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes for a game mode, I now queue up almost instantly and I'm getting into combat almost instantly, which is fantastic. It is a great change. And I'm glad they introduced it. Now, they discuss in this video that 3v3s and expeditions are still on track to come into play for Season 4. We are currently in Season 3, so the next Season 4 implementation, we should have cross-server 3v3s and OPRs.
That does actually bring up a point, though, because our community question last time was around what players would like to see as cross-world experiences. And a lot of players, I noticed, were bringing up expeditions and arenas, which we do have on our roadmap, and is currently targeted at Season 4.
Once again, I'm sure you guys experience it as well, where you do 3v3s at night, and sometimes you're the group or you're part of a group that is dominating. Sometimes you're running across the same team and you just know the outcome and it gets kind of boring. Sometimes you're on the other side and you're not the team that's dominating and you're getting crushed, and that outcome is also not very exciting. Sometimes you just want a larger player base. And so doing this for 3v3s is fantastic. Expeditions, I was trying to farm a specific item set just last week, and my expedition that I needed to get it from was not in the mutation run. And so it actually took me quite a bit of time to get the population up in order to get a group together to run this expedition so I could farm this gear. With cross-server expeditions, that's no longer going to be as big of a problem. You don't have to wait as long. And so all these changes is just great quality of life implementation. Now, obviously, it would be better if everybody that you encountered would be on your same server, but this is the next best outcome. Like, if you can't get people for a specific thing or whatever reason, you're trying to enable the game to function well with different servers and everything, and you don't want too many people in one spot, and so this is how you're allowing performance to really shine through. Doing these sorts of cross-server things is the next best step, in my opinion. So yeah, that is all the stuff that's coming up soon. But then they dived into even more talk about their systems. And so they started talking about how they could implement different types of rules. And so one of the things they brought up is the one we all want to hear, which is skills-based matchmaking. They said that it is possible for them to go about with the systems they're implementing to do a skills-based matchmaking system.
Absolutely. And like the attributes that I was discussing earlier, it's like, who's to say what design chooses for those attributes and to feed into our service? But
yeah, don't blame services then.
No, but we're definitely on that approach, right? Where it's like yeah, we have that flexibility. So if skill became a consideration, that's something that our service could take into account.
That this is part of the query that they're fulfilling, and that is exciting. Skills-based 3v3s, skills-based OPRs is great. You getting matched up with people more along your level is nothing but a good thing. And so having the population to do so is also good, cross-server allowing that to happen. I think this type of thing would bring more people into the game, like having this as an option, especially for PvPers, even Expedition, like having score runs on a big cross-server Expedition leaderboard, I think would be fantastic. I think that allows players to compete with a wider player pool, and it competition is fun. Competition is fun for a lot of players, and so I think these are great changes. But they also said that you can do other things.
Sure. Yeah. So the main thing is it comes down to, let's say, configuration and providing our game designers with the tools that they need to be able to describe these different game modes with our rules engine. So if we wanted a game mode with varying team size, varying composition, could be other attributes as well. If we wanted to say, not that we have this, it's just an example, but it's like, players who have dyed all of their equipment yellow. If design wanted to expose that as an attribute to our matchmaker and have us use that and form matches around all these players who had dyed their outfits, that we could do that. We're providing the flexibility for game design to be able to make cool experiences for the players.
And so that got me thinking a little bit, like, okay, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, how are we going further? And so allow me to kind of explain my thoughts on this. So they could potentially incorporate a system to where they could have like a bows only 3v3 system. So if you queue up for 3v3s for that event, you can only queue in for that event with a bow equipped. You can't take it off once it's on, like it's part of your build, like you have to run a bow for this event. And so you could do sorts of things like this. You could have the Robin Hood weekend event. And so the more you participate, the more rewards and prizes you get. It's another way to reward players for participating in an event. Do the same thing with any sort of weapon mode. You could, the burnout, the burnout event, and everybody has to run an Inferno staff. Just, getting people to play different weapons and participate in different events. I think this is a really cool idea for a query. Also, potentially, let's say you're having an issue in OPRs with a specific weapon type. Like, I'm not saying it's problematic. Let's just say right now rapiers they're not. Let's say rapiers are just dominating the map, right? And everybody's running a rapier because there's some sort of weird bug in the game that's allowing it to just do infinite amounts of damage. And it's problematic. Well, they can't get a fix in right away because they can't identify it. You could potentially put in a quick query for 3v3s and OPRs to not allow rapiers into the game. So it's a quick band-aid fix on a potential issue. Like, stuff happens. Sometimes stuff happens, sometimes stuff breaks, and allowing yourself to be able to say, hey, we're removing rapiers, or this certain thing's overtuned until we figure out how to fix it and re-implement it. We're just going to remove it from these types of game modes. You could still run it in Expeditions, you could still run it elsewhere, but in these game modes where it's so dominant and prevalent and unfun for the player base, we're gonna take it back. I think those types of changes are fantastic. I think it has exciting possibilities. And the last one I wanted to bring up to you guys is they talked about engagements, or they talked about different types of encounters that players could experience. And I thought about it and I was like, we're currently in a Halloween holiday weekend event. We're currently in an event where we go around and we kill Ball, and he drops candy, or he drops these coins that we can get different cosmetics for. And it's a fun event. The cosmetics are fun, right? Some of the rewards, if you haven't had them and you like them, they can be fun. What's not fun is chasing around trying to kill this boss as quickly as possible, because there are 300 people on the map doing the exact same thing. And if you don't get there fast enough, you don't get the drop. And apparently, and this is me being sarcastic, but apparently there's mechanics for this boss where you're supposed to like do different things, and it's supposed to be like an engaging combat system that the design team had. But the problem is so many people are zerging down this boss that you're just trying to get hits in. You're trying to get hits in for a drop. Now, they could potentially, with this cross-server system, enable weekend or holiday-based events, holiday-based encounters to where you can queue into the system, and then you go in, and then instead of fighting ball with 300 people, maybe you're only fighting ball with 200 people or 300 people or whatever. Like, I'm 20 people. Like, whatever the event is catered towards that they think would be engaging combat, that's what you get a queue into with. And so this would allow this sort of combat to preside and like be fun for these world-based encounters once again. Now, we've all been doing the artifact farm for the last couple weeks. I'm sure the vast majority of us have. We all know that there's a big difference between the first week of farming for an artifact when everybody's on the one spot and going to try and farm for it now. Like there's a lot less people sometimes, and those types of encounters are quite a bit different. And so allowing these types of combat systems to be enjoyable for the player base will go a long ways towards people enjoying these events even more. And so you can obviously scale the difficulty. Like if you want people to still get rewards at lower levels, medium tiers, higher tiers, you can drop rewards based off of what you complete. And so people at lower levels can still complete the content, but it will be more rewarding and engaging for them to do so instead of just chasing a boss around the map on horseback trying to get there in time to get enough light attacks in. So I'm not saying that this is what they're going to do. That's one of the things that popped into my head. I think this would be a fantastic idea, and if they haven't thought of it, or if that was an idea that came to them, hopefully they implement it, because I know a lot of people like the world environment for New World, and I think one of the things that is lacking is the mass grouping around some of these world bosses. And this would be a huge, fantastic change in the right direction for combat from a PvE perspective, and doing these sorts of things just around the edges. Like they've been so good in the last year, constantly improving the game in all these different ways. This would just be another one of those things where it's like, hey, the people that enjoy this combat, here you go. Here's a better, more rewarding experience that we can now implement with this system. And I hope they do it. But those are my thoughts. Those are my ramblings of a crazy man watching a video and jumping to my own conclusions. If you have your own, I want to hear yours. Please leave them in the comment section. Let me know if there's something that jumped into your head when you watched this or when you heard me. Maybe I missed something. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.